Hi, everyone. Today, with Women in Data Center interview series, we have a very special guest, Melanie. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you for having me here today. My name's Melanie Kiely. I'm the head of global site selection for Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. I oversee our data center leasing activity. Have a team in EMEA, JPAC in the US, and we are procuring data center space globally for Oracle.
I see. Thank you so much. So a lot of the people who are perhaps new to the data center or don't know much about the data center, we might be confused about what is site selection. Would you like to explain it in a very simple term?
Yeah, sure. So site selection is a skill in which the employee or the work group goes out and searches for locations where we can build our facilities and install our servers, racks, network gear, and effectively build cloud infrastructure. So site selection is multifaceted. It can be actually finding raw land locations and building the data center from ground up, or it also can be from sourcing data center space in other data center operators' locations. And ultimately, it's a combination of a real estate and a technology deal. So it comprises of contract negotiation, market analysis, financial analysis, researching your network infrastructure, confirming you have fiber routes, confirming that permitting is in place, ensuring that you have an ability to import and export server equipment. So it's a very actually complex role and super fun, super exciting, especially during this time of exponential cloud growth.
There is so much happening in data center space, but I wonder how long you've been in this industry.
I have been in infrastructure development my entire career, specifically focused on data centers, probably in the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years now. So I started my career in wireless infrastructure, and I worked for a company in the United States called American Tower. And then after that, I worked for T-Mobile. And at both of those companies, we built wireless infrastructure. We built distributed antenna facilities, rooftop facilities, tower facilities. So there's lots of synergies with building wireless infrastructure. And then I pivoted over to the data center industry.
I see. That's quite fascinating. And I wonder, what was the key factor for you to break into this industry? Was it very intentional decision that you were aiming to go in data center, or was it just very natural progression?
You know, I was actually very intentional in road mapping my way into the data center world. I didn't know it. I've been in infrastructure delivery now for about 25 years. I started as a real estate attorney several years ago. And as a real estate attorney, there's a lot of synergies in acquiring land, buying and selling and negotiating purchase and sale agreements. And then I became an attorney for American Tower. And so I was doing that for a tower company and then a wireless infrastructure company. And when I was at T-Mobile, I was I was an attorney actually for 17 years and moved over into the business world as a business executive. At T-Mobile, I was a director of network engineering and operations. Prior to me moving over to a business role, though, I was a commercial attorney focusing on commercial cloud transactions. So I learned how to do infrastructure deployment on the real estate side, and then I also learned how to negotiate cloud deals, technical deals, SaaS, hardware supply chain on the commercial side. And I had seen a really hockey stick trajectory for cloud, right? Like you could see that cloud was the future. So when the opportunity arose to pivot my expertise into cloud, into data centers I did. I actually ended up, I spent about 13 years at T-Mobile, wearing both a legal hat as a senior counsel, and then also director of network engineering and operations. And I saw a position open up with Microsoft in their cloud operations and innovation department, which is their data center arm of the business. And they were looking for somebody to come in and build a new function called the Lease Center of Excellence. And I, threw my hat in the ring, and I interviewed, and I ended up getting the position, which I was just thrilled about. I love technology. I love building infrastructure. It's fascinating to really be able to take a real estate background, a legal background, and enable technological advancements for innovators to build really the next technology, whether it's AI or the next incredible app like Uber, or just all the technological advancements that are happening. So I have been a bit of a geek when it comes to technical infrastructure, and really enjoyed my time at Microsoft. I ended up overseeing the global portfolio management team. So I had a global team in EMEA, JPAC, in the US there as well. And we focused on doing lease renewals and ensuring reservations and ROFRs were secured. So it really gave me a deep understanding of the leasing component of the data center business. And then a position opened with Oracle on the front end. So I was on the deal side, so negotiating the deals and expanding the deals, which has really been my bread and butter for my whole career. So I jumped at the chance, and it's been an incredible shift. OCI is incredibly busy, and the cloud is just exponentially growing, especially with the demands of AI. So I just have been really privileged and loved the career opportunities that I've had in this industry.
Very, very, very unique combination of skill sets and different backgrounds. This is a kind of like a pivot question, because you mentioned about the job advertisement in Microsoft and you decided to apply. In my work, I notice when it comes to a lot of the female people, when they see a job advertisement and look at the requirements, if they're not ticking all of them, they feel like, oh, this is not for me, I'm not qualified enough. Did you have similar experience, or you were like, you know what, I'm just gonna give it a try and see how it goes?
I would say earlier in my career, so I in my 20s and my early 30s, I definitely struggled with that, not feeling like I had enough qualifications for a particular role. And then I started to really do a deeper dive into unconscious bias and gender diversity. I was a little bit naive earlier in my career, not realizing that women were navigating such disparity, right? I think that ecosystem is naturally set up for men to have successful careers and progress. And, women sometimes are wearing many hats, being caretakers. Women also tend to be judged on their performance, and men tend to be judged on their potential. So I didn't understand all of those dynamics. And when I was at T-Mobile, I was really, blessed to be able to lead the Women's Leadership Network there. And I got quickly educated on gender diversity and unconscious bias, which helped me see these things in myself, right? Even the way I communicated, sometimes you can inadvertently give away your power, or unnecessarily have to qualify yourself for something that you know the insides and outs about. So I started to learn a little bit more about navigating the workplace in corporate America, and learning about these things where at times I may have not been putting my hat in the ring for something because I didn't think I was qualified enough. So after I got more educated on that, I just was going for it. I started to become very, some key attributes that I started to pick up is like being very vocal and advocating for myself and advocating for my accomplishments, and amplifying my accomplishments, amplifying other mentees, other mentors, other women's accomplishments. And I just started to be more proactive at putting myself out there. And that's really when things shifted for my career, for sure.
And that journey, especially the beginning of the journey, can be quite daunting, because if I think about myself, how do I learn about all those unconscious biasness? Like, where do I even begin? What kind of sources would you recommend?
I think for me, I would do a lot of reading of different things, right? And that was good, but I really accelerated my learning by getting involved in other women's executive groups, because I was learning from women that may have been in the industry for 10, 20 years. And they just would quickly tell me how to navigate things instead of me trying to figure it out, right? Or even sometimes questioning yourself. For me, earlier in my career, sometimes, and because I've been in technology my whole career, sometimes I'm only the one, or there's only me or one other woman in the room, and there may be like 10, 15 guys, right? 10 or 15 men. And I was in a legal role at the time, but I would be talking about something and I may not have been getting support. And I was feeling insecure, like, oh, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, right? Or, but I just didn't realize that sometimes these colleagues, they've already have a pre-established relationship. And it wasn't that I didn't know what I was talking about. It was that they may have been focused on their own thing that they were trying to prioritize. So I started to learn, again, become more self-aware of these things that I was doing that I could shift within myself. And it was the other women in these executive network groups or in these employee resource groups that really helped me accelerate that learning. So I definitely encourage other women coming into the industry to get involved in the Women's Tech Forum, or like Women in Data Centers, or iMasons, the iWomen's Network, because they can quickly share information with you, and getting that information is definitely key.
Sounds like surrounding yourself is the quickest way to learn, and having the feedback.
That's how what I found to be most successful.
Okay, so kind of going back to the questions, how do you define success both professionally and personally?
So success is really multifaceted, and it's going to be based on the individual. For me, it's been based on different phases of my life. So I had children later in life, and while I was in a period where my kids were really little, it was very important. I mean, I think you don't really, at the time, I didn't really have any other choice. The babies don't sleep at night. So sometimes it's hard to take on really large projects at the time when your kids are infants. So at that time, I made a conscious decision to focus my career in gaining new skill sets to set me up for the next thing, right? But then as soon as my children got a little bit older, where sleep wasn't so difficult, I had acquired these skills while they were infants that helped set me up for that next promotion. So I think success is very multifaceted based on the individual. For me, it's important for me. I'm very ambitious. I enjoy my career. I love our industry. I want to continue to reach for more. I want to be a good example and be someone that helps other women get lifted up in the industry. I feel very passionate about that for myself. So I know success for me is a career headed in that direction. equally so, I'm very engaged in my kids' lives. You know, my kids play basketball. They're excellent athletes. Their education is very important to me. So I also find that family life also needs to be very successful. And I am married to someone who's a true partner, right? We split the load at home, and we have help. So things that we can't get to, we hire help to help us with. And I definitely don't do it all myself. So I pretty much mapped out like what I like to do and what I don't like to do. And I delegated what I don't like to do to other people.
For me, I hate ironing, so my husband is in charge of ironing. Do you have such thing that you know that you don't like it?
Totally. I totally do. And my husband will do a good job at dividing and conquering on those things. And then, you know, my kids are getting older too, where they can pick up the slack on things. So it definitely has gotten easier as they've gotten older. When they were little, it was really hard for sure. But I think you have to be very intentional. For me, I actually wrote down all the things that need to be taken care of in the house on an Excel spreadsheet. And I calculated how long it takes to do these things.
You said that you're a geek, right? So I can see that.
I was very analytical about the time it's going to take to do these things, to ensure that it was evenly spread.
Sorry, I know people who does that when it comes to finance, but I never knew that you can apply the same skill set to household responsibilities. But
yeah, exactly. I'm like, okay, taking out the trash, you do that twice a week. You have to do the dishes every day. You know, this is a harder job than this. So how are we gonna split the load here?
I love that.
Yeah.
Who has been the most influential person in your life, and what's the best piece of advice they have given you?
You know, I have so many people that have been very influential. I can't just list one, but I definitely will share a few of them. So first, my parents have been very inspirational, and they've always had a very strong work ethic. So they had me at a very young age. You know, they were teenage parents. And even them being so young and having such a young family, they instilled the importance of education in me at a very young age, taught me how to earn my own living, you know, not my own living, but I got a job very young, and it was always very, they were always very diligent at being self-supporting. And I really appreciate that now that I, you know, have my own family. I know how hard that must have been because kids are resistant. So my parents were definitely very, very influential. And then other people along the way, I had this excellent executive sponsor at T-Mobile. Her name's Elizabeth, and she really gave me kind of permission to be myself. I was at this juncture in my career, and I think a lot of women face this, where you're told you're too assertive, you're too aggressive, and then you know, I would find myself, okay, well, I'll try to be nicer and more professional, and like, you know, more easier to get along with, and then nobody takes you seriously, and then you're not considered for leadership positions. So you're kind of in this, like, you have to be this perfect bullseye of a person. And she really was like, just be yourself. Who cares if you make people uncomfortable, right? Like, leaders are assertive. If they don't like it, that's too bad. And I needed to hear that at that time in my career. So that's still very pivotal for me even today. And that probably happened like 13 years ago or so. And then other kind of more popular or well-known individuals, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She was a Supreme Court justice in the United States, and she really dedicated her entire life for the advocacy for gender equality and equality in general. And she was very strategic in gaining small wins on the journey that added up to big moves in the end. And one of her quotes that she says that resonates with me, because sometimes I can be abrasive, is advocate for what you want, but do it in a way that people will follow. Sometimes I can come across angry, right? And because I'm irritated, and that'll put people back on their heels. So I really try to emulate that phrase about advocating for what you want, but do it in a way that people will follow. So she definitely was very inspirational. And then there's so many amazing women coming up, like Caitlin Clark is doing incredible things in the United States from an athleticism and blocking out the negative criticism, and she's taking women's sports to new heights. And there's just been a whole history of incredible female athletes, of the shoulders that she's standing on. So there's a lot of inspirational people in my life that definitely have been influential for me.
While you were saying the comment about being too aggressive, you might have noticed I was nodding my head really hard, because it's happening to most of the people, right?
Yeah, exactly.
How do you handle moments of burnout, because you have this lots of responsibilities, both professionally and at work, and I assume that there will be a time, or there has been time, where you felt very, very exhausted. How do you cope?
That's for sure. So for me, what I need to be very careful about is I can get so focused on the work that I let the self-care go. Like I won't go see my friends for dinner, or I won't go to the gym or go for a run because I'm too busy. And as soon as that starts getting out of balance, that's when I start snapping at people at work or snapping at my husband, right? So like, I know that I need to keep those things in check, and it's important not to over-index on just one thing, and to try to have that self-care. That's definitely important. And then sometimes, I'm known, I don't know if this happens to other women, but I'll get up in the middle of the night and I will obsess about some process or something ridiculous that is it's work related, but it's not serious, but I'll just spin out on it and I'll have a hard time going back to sleep. And sleep is so critical. So I really try very hard to ensure that I get enough sleep. And that's something I struggle with, actually. I probably have a little bit of insomnia. But if I am not well rested, it's difficult to articulate yourself in the morning or throughout the day. And again, it's difficult to be clear-headed. So being focused on burnout is something that we all really need to pay attention to, because it can come in quick and quietly. And then there's times where, again, the ups and downs in life, or the different phases of your life. There were times where my kids were really little and I was just exhausted, and I would be like, all right, I'm not raising my hand for the next quarter on that next project, right? I'm going to just try to recharge and get things and just do the regular work and not try to overachieve on something else. And I think it's about just knowing where you are and what you need, and listening to yourself to try to avoid the burnout.
Having realistic expectation of yourself.
Yes, for sure. Yep.
What's the one thing, I'm sure that in your day-to-day life you're interacting with a lot of the peoples, but what are the one thing people would be surprised to learn about you?
I think there's a couple things. I love sports, and I'm very athletic. It's the way I recharge. And a couple of things about me is I was a 3-sport athlete in high school and college. So when I went to college, I pretty much spent every day for 4 years in the gym.
Wow, what kind of sport?
I I played basketball, volleyball, and softball, and it was awesome. I had an incredible experience doing it. I was young, and we traveled all over the place. I went to Brandeis University, and I was 19 years old, hopping on airplanes, flying to different parts of the country, staying at hotels. It was very exciting. And now my kids play basketball, so I still have that joy and love for sports, and it just looks different now. Now I'm enjoying watching my kids go through it, but that has been very fun. And then before I had kids, my husband and we actually climbed several of the volcanoes globally. So I have summited Mount Kilimanjaro, I summited Mount Rainier, Mount Baker, which these are some technical climbs, mountaineering. And that was very tiring and exhilarating at the same time. Being on the top of a mountain is so beautiful. It's just very, it's gorgeous. It's the most gorgeous thing I have ever seen in my life. But I think those are probably things that, like my corporate life now, and my family life now, people probably don't know about me.
Do you have a next volcano to climb on your list?
When I was younger, I used to have a big picture of Mount Denali, which is in Alaska. I actually named my dog after the mountain. And I had dreams of doing that. But now that I'm older, and I think having kids too, I'm definitely more cautious. So I'm like, okay, maybe I won't do that one. I'll do something a little easier now. And I don't know what it'll be. I don't know what it'll be now, but I do see once my kids get a little bit older, and I likely will gravitate back towards the mountains.
We'll be looking forward to that.
Yes.
Is there something outside of your work that you're deeply passionate about, something that fuels your energy or creativity?
I'd say I am very passionate about gender advocacy. I find helping other women navigate the complexities of career and family is very fulfilling and energizing. I find that there are so many brilliant women out there that just may not have found the right manager or the right mentor, that have all this brilliance and this exuberance that they can bring to a workplace or bring to a project. And I am very passionate about helping them find their way, and I think getting more women into leadership is something that I'm also very passionate about. Especially, I'm so honored to be talking to you. I really admire the work that you're doing with women in data centers. It's an excellent career. It's a well-paying career. The future is cloud and AI, so building out data centers is going to, and the whole supply chain around it is going to be here for quite some time. So I just think that there's such an incredible, interesting path for women to get into this industry, and appreciate all the work you're doing to amplify that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's our aim, right? To showcase all the leaders in our industry in order to attract new talents. It's a fascinating industry to be in.
It is so much. It's so fun. There's so much happening in really any interest that you have. There's something new and exciting happening. So definitely encourage anybody out there listening to join the data center business, because it's incredible.
Yes, it is. What personal struggle or challenge have you overcome that has taught you the most about yourself?
Yeah, so a personal challenge that I've overcome is probably getting more in tune to my own anxiety, and realizing that unresolved things that have happened in your past, they show up at work, and you may not realize that. It may either show up because of how you communicate to somebody in a way that may not be the best, or you may be self-conscious about things that nobody else is thinking, but I'm worried about. So I think really getting a deeper self-awareness of what's triggering that insecurity or that anxiety has been very helpful for me and how I show up in the workplace. And again, earlier in my career, I don't think I realized any of that was showing up. And then you start to see like, okay, I'm getting the same feedback over and over from people, right? Like, what is triggering me to act this way? And really doing a deeper dive on whatever that is. And with me doing that with myself, it also helped me become a better leader as well, because your teammates show up and their life is like whatever's going on in their life is also impacting how they show up in work. So I think it helped me also just get a deeper sense of empathy and try to help either mentees or people that are on my team navigate through whatever they're going through in their personal life and still be able to show up and contribute at work.
Very, very true, because who we are as a person in our personal life is not completely different who we are in professional life, right? So we're still the same people.
Yes.
Imagine this, if you had a completely responsibility-free day, like you don't have anything on your calendar, nothing chasing you, how would you spend that day?
I love to hike. Well, there's probably two things. So I love watching my kids play their sports. So I'm really into that actually right now. But say they were at school and I got to do anything I wanted to do. Something that I love to do is go hike the mountains. So I live in Washington State and it's absolutely beautiful. I live in Washington State in the United States, and there's lots of national parks, and you can really go to, hundreds of different locations where there's waterfalls or an ocean or wildflowers, and it really is breathtaking. And that's really how I love to spend my days, out in nature, exploring new places, getting a good workout in as I'm doing it, and seeing beautiful things.
I'm from Mongolia originally, and then that sounds very, very close to how I used to spend my childhood, especially in summer.
Oh, that's incredible.
Just go out, hike mountains, go to the forest, pick some wild strawberries and eat them. It was beautiful.
And you know what's so cool? When I was pregnant with both my kids, I hiked with them all the time. And then when I was on maternity leave, I would put them in my little pouch and I'd go hike with them. And they both really, even now as they're getting older, like my daughter really loves being around rivers and the water and stuff. And it's cool to see that activity that I did with them while they were little is also still staying with them as they get older. And I definitely find it to be very rewarding, so that it makes me happy that they like it as well.
Very cool. What traits or values do you look for in the people you choose to surround yourself with?
The people I like to surround myself with are they tend to be very, they tend to have qualities of things that I emulate and want to see better in myself, right? So I think there's probably a couple of things. So I'll have a friend group of people that I hike with or that I do book clubs with, and we'll be silly and joyful, and they're low maintenance, right? They're like, it's just all about enjoying each other's time and company. And then people in my work life, I definitely gravitate towards people that are interested in learning and growing. And I think that's been one of the things that have helped me be successful is I really am a lifelong learner. I never feel like I know enough, and I am genuinely interested to learn more, and I put in the effort to learn more. So I love being around other people that are much smarter than me that I can learn from. And of course, I like to be around people that give back to others. I think it's really an important quality to help others be successful. None of us get to where we are on our own merit, right? I think we all have had helping hands along the way. So it's very important for me to pay it forward and to surround myself with other people that are like that as well.
So for growth mindset and giving people.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
And there's a final thought. Can women have it all?
Having it all, I think, is very subjective to the person. So it is very difficult to do everything at once at the same time without help. You only have a set amount of time in the day. And if you spend all your time doing things that you do not find fulfilling or valuable, then that's going to impact your mental health. It's going to impact your ability to grow. At the same time, if you have a life of abundance of everything coming at you at once, you can tire out and burn out as well. So I think being able to be mindful of what is working for you is really how the individual determines if they have it all or not. I feel very blessed. I feel like I've been very intentional in my life to seek for opportunity career-wise, and also know I need help in order to have a healthy family, right? I need a husband that's fully engaged. We've had au pairs and nannies that have helped us. I have other friends that will help carpool, and will hire people to help us as well. So I think knowing that you can't do everything all at once is very important. And then how can you be intentional to fulfill your dreams, but also know that you need to seek help from others in order to do that. And then in turn, when others are helping you, you have to help them as well, right? So it's definitely this give and take to be very conscious about.
Absolutely. And Melanie, this was our very first virtual video series. So thank you so much for bearing with us with all the technical issues, as well as being so gracious about your time. It has been absolutely great to have you on this platform. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. And again, I really applaud all your efforts. I see you at the conferences, getting yourself out there, advocating for women in data centers. And I know that it's extra work, and I appreciate everything that you're doing. It's super important. And, you're paving a trail, so I applaud you.
Thank you so much.